Working title for this song is Cult, spelled KVLT. I had the core ideas for this song for quite some time. Didn't know what to do with them. I wanted to write something for myself. I knew it wasn't written for Warbringer, that's for damn sure, but I wrote it, I demoed it, and I sent it to John, and he really liked it. So I knew for sure the most striking part of it was this great melody that I ended the song with, but I ended up starting the song with it, and it goes something like this. So this was something new for Warbringer. It was a dynamic we hadn't explored in a sense of song by using clean guitars, acoustic guitars in the verses. You know, it felt good. It felt, it was cold. You know, it resonated with me, and it was something I wanted to pursue and challenge myself, challenge our band, challenge our fans with a new dynamic. So it was these really somber verses that led into this big fucking roaring guitar chorus. So the song takes a turn. You know, the first half is very somber and melodic, and then it just takes a right turn where I get to exercise my affinity for black metal. A main influence for myself, Keevil, and Adam is Bathory. So I definitely brought that across, and this second half has this great triumphant rise, both in his lyrics and what he's saying, both in the music because it just keeps growing and building as it fades out with this fantastic guitar harmony that has multiple layers. And when John started writing up the lyrics to it, this great line that wrote at the very end, it said Defiance of Fate, so I decided to call the song Defiance of Fate.
So for this one, Carlos hands me the KVLT demo, and he says, hey man, I don't know what you want to do with this. I wrote some shit in the middle of the night, I was high. He hands it to me, and it's really different for us. It has a soft first part, and we've never done that. It's, I really loved the music though, so I wanted to do it. But it's a challenge for me, because my whole vocal style is tailored around basically going ballistic, and here's a part of the bit of music we wrote where I can't do that. So I have to come up with a workaround and a new way to use my voice. So what I really liked about this song is how it was a real two-part song. It felt really epic, and I love the way it just builds up and builds up. It was a challenge for me, but I ended up going with, I was gonna do the search for meaning as a theme. And the idea is I could match the two parts of music in the song with a two-part lyric that uses two different vocal styles. So the idea was to have a theme of despair and nihilism in the first half and sort of an existential triumph where the speaker creates meaning at the end. So with that two-part song thing in mind, I decided I was gonna do the first half really bleak and forlorn and despairing, but then the speaker in the second half decides that he's not going to accept a nihilistic outlook for himself, and he's going to pretty much raise his fist and create his own meaning and burn his flame bright. So I use this phrase in the first half, a silent dark, to talk about sort of an empty black place you might go after you die where there's nothing, and the fear of that. But then at the end, the phrase is turned to I will not go silently into the dark, where it's about burning your flame bright, creating a meaning and a legacy. And so I think it turned out really powerful to match the music, and I use a dynamic where the nihilistic forlorn part is in this distant black metal delivery that I've never done before, and the end part is in my signature boisterous delivery that I usually use. So I think it's a really unique song in the discography, and pushing myself as a vocalist and a lyricist in this way to match what Carlos was doing that was out of the box gave us some great results.
When I first joined the band, the extent of my songwriting was more so helping out with the structures, and then it was cool to see my particular influence develop on songs like Echoes from the Void or Hunter Seeker into a song like this. So it's a good feeling to know that from just a drummer, I've now become, you know, core composer with John and Adam, and that they are open-minded enough and willing enough to take a chance, take a risk with something new like Defiance of Fate.
This song was compiled mainly from a lot of riffs I had in the banks from a long time ago. A lot of the composition was done through Carlos in arrangements with Keeble, and sometimes it works better that way. You know, we're both drummers, so my background from that, I have full trust in him to take this stuff and make it what it is, and it ended up being one of the longest songs on the record, but it doesn't feel like it. It's a beast of a song.
My working title for this track was called Dark Harmony, and I was up late one night, having a few drinks, Iron Maiden documentary in the background, riffing around on bass, so I wrote this bass line, and ended up adding a guitar harmony over it. You'll now hear that in the middle of the song. It only repeats once or so. But in order to continue writing, I went through Adam's vault of riffs, found something pretty fitting, and now that became the main theme of the song. It became the main riff. It had the right melodic sensibilities. It was dark, it was brooding. It was in a waltz time, so I took that. You'll now hear that as the bass intro. It becomes the main riff of the song, so that's the front end of the song. Knowing that that occupied a lot of time, I felt the middle of the tune needed to go somewhere else. So we went into more of an extreme, kind of crushing breakdown, if you will. From that point on, went into more of an extended solo lead guitar section with a barrage of different riffs, and then we found our way back into it.
So when I got handed the music for Heart of Darkness, what I had was something really dark, blackened, brooding, and really long. I wanted to do something serious and heavy for this, and I happened to be finishing up my bachelor's studies for my history degree, and one thing I was learning about was world colonialism, and I learned specifically about the Belgian Congo, which is just a gallery of unbelievable horror. And I also read the novel Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, which is this real ugly, deeply racist book, but it really talks about colonialism and its evil kind of from within its own perspective. So there's a lot to unpack there that I won't go into. But I wanted to do a song with this as the theme because what I think is that this era in the world leaves a really long shadow on today. And a lot of the stuff people are upset about or talking about today has roots back in this time. So I wanted to do a song about that and also a song about kind of the evil in men's souls and the question of what makes it so people will try to dominate and rule and subjugate other people. Because I think that the real ugly answer is because they can and it's good for them. To spice up the musical side of the song, one thing I thought that I was adamant about from the beginning is that the bass was gonna have a heavy role in this, because the guitar stays on this like waltz time, tremolo line a lot, and I wanted the bass to kind of dance around it. One thing in the book Heart of Darkness, they have this metaphor of the river going up into the Heart of Darkness, and there's a couple movies that get that idea across. I handed these movies off, Apocalypse Now and Aguirre, The Wrath of God, to our bassist Chase Bryant, and I told him, make your bass line sound like the river. And what we get is something really like meandering and murky, and it really dances around the guitar line. So here, this was using a visual aid to give a different member an image that I had so he could realize it in his own way. And that was a cool element to the writing of this song, and I think it really adds a lot to the final piece.
So even though a lot of the riffs from Heart of Darkness came from old material that I had, once I handed it over to Carlos, he really kind of combined it into an actual compositional piece that ended up being over 7 minutes, and I think our lengthiest song on the album. It turned out killer.
So this is the first piece of music I wrote post Woe to the Vanquished, and I wanted something direct, something that slammed, something that made you want to move. Around that time I was listening to a lot of different bands, anything from like early Cro-Mags to Violence, and that really played a role in the type of riffs I was writing. So I really like the dynamic this song has with the tight chug riffs to the open blaring chords in the chorus. And instead of going fast, we ended up going with a breakdown to wrap up this number, and every time we play it live, it just absolutely crushes.
So while we were writing this one, the president said something that I thought just had to be a thrash metal lyric. He said, he's talking about North Korea, and he said they will be met by a fire and a fury unlike anything the world has seen before. I'm like, well, that sounds evil. I'm using that. Thank you for writing my lines for me. What I wanted to get at with this, remember in the first song how we were talking about how scary modern weapons have become and how far it's gone. Now think of that power being all held by one person, and this person, no matter who he is an emotional creature who can be irrational and can do things for dumb, personal, petty reasons. And so that was kind of the angle I wanted in this song, is the idea of the power of the modern state behind a proud, vain human. And this really comes across in the end where the speaker of the song is saying over and over, I will be second to none. What I want, the image that the listener gets for that is kind of a guy with his hand on the button saying, don't push me, don't question me, I'll do it.
So with the song Power and Surpass, that was a single that we'd released shortly after the Woe to the Vanquished album. And we had it out just for content. And once we started to do the new mixes for the album, we realized how good it sounded, and we put that in there with it, and it ended up sounding tenfold better. So that's going on the new album as well.
All these years, they haven't seen the signs, but they better watch their back. We've been sharpening our knives. The old age has died. The new world has begun. Second to none. Second to no one. First in line to die. Violence is addiction, and killing is the fight. Oh, we've done once, we're sad.
right, for these next two songs, we took the more organic approach. I went over to Carlos's garage. He set up his drum kit, I set up my guitar rig, and then I just started busting out some maniacal chainsaw riffs. So once we got the bare bones of the song basically structured, last minute thing that we introduced was just this random heavy riff that I made on the spot, and it ended up being one of the most crushing riffs on the album, I think.
Outer Reaches. It was a cool garage jam. Adam and I just in there burning it up. You have these riffs that just reminded me of like old Sodom. And yeah, you know, we take breaks. You want a smoke break, having some drinks, whatever, open the garage door, get some air. And there was a wasp just like hovering around, literally. You know, the riffs were kind of buzzy. Our engineer, our audio engineer, front of house in Europe, fucking Bob, he says wasp. Working title.
So Adam and Carlos passed me this Wasp demo from a garage jam they did, and I didn't know what to do with it for a while. I heard a pretty fast, aggressive track. I've written a lot of these in my day, and I want something new to do with it. Carlos kept saying, man, you don't need to overthink it. You can write something just like kind of straightforward. It doesn't need to be this involved concept, but I'm me, so it does. And here's what I ended up coming up with. I gravitated towards a couple musical parts in there that suggested something no one else was hearing in the song, which was outer space. And the parts that led me to that, there's this tremolo riff that I thought sounded kind of soaring and gave me a rocket ship kind of image in my head. And then this really dense and heavy middle riff that I was like, oh, that's like you get sucked into a black hole. And so I really went with that black hole thing. So the song became this sort of sci-fi story about explorers who are fleeing a dying Earth in the future, and they're gonna go dive through the black hole and see what's on the other side. And once we decided this as the theme, that colored the writing for a lot of the top musical layers. Stuff like the lead guitar, the note choice became very alien and space, and in the middle part, this black hole section, we put these like groaning guitar noises and stuff on the drum production to make it sound like space-time distorted when we get to that part. And so it really makes it a cool image, and I think that that really separates this fast burner of a song from the many fast burners that WARBRINGER has written.